So it's saying it is lower, but not a big jump.
And then expense, and then tourism.
So tourism's actually your lowest. Okay, so what's expense? You think? So you had healthcare was 85.15.
Expense 65 or 60.
Maybe expense is also important because we expense more.
Remember, it's only
Okay.
as household expense, yeah.
Household expense
Household
more
expense.
than might be the economy might be stiffer.
So you want that higher, or are you happy with?
Almost the same with the lost income.
But
Oh, no.
Slightly slightly less.
If you lost your income, and
Then
then
you
you must
expense less.
reduce the expense.
Yeah. So it's almost the same,
Automatically
but
less.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so how much? Okay.
And then tourism.
Tourism?
Yes.
Kasih akan berapa pada bulan?
So hang on. So
I think
no, I think you.
why it's in the expense.
It's wrong. It's going the
In
wrong
the
way.
expense now.
Because what you're saying here is if these
What we are saying, what we are trying to say.
lost income was the highest, so should actually get away.
We are,
Yes, that's right.
Okay, salary, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, salary, yeah. Okay.
That should be 10, right?
And then now it's tourism.
Let's do 50-50 for tourism.
Okay, so basically what you're saying, this is what you have to do in with your groups tomorrow is read it back to them. Say, so in this you're saying that the most important, the variable that creates the most economic change is lost income, followed by
Changes in
household
expenses.
expense, and then healthcare,
And then tourism.
and then tourism. And you say something like that, then and people
Yeah.
then can say, right, yeah, no, that's what I mean. And you're saying there's a big jump between, so there's not much difference between household expense and lost income. They're very similar. There's a little bit of a difference with healthcare, but there's a much bigger difference with tourism. So they understand that. Oh, yeah? All right, so then what you do is then you press make sure that's right, calculate CTP, it's calculated. Do you want to save it? Yes. Do you want to save it? Yes. All right, so it comes up, not on the fruit fly. Let's say, this is the test. You call it you generally call it, so this is economic change, so you call it economic change. Right, you put it where you do it, and then so it's saved it. So you we go into,
We can use CPC file, actually.
yeah, but I think it's always better opening on you can do it this way. So you have a list of them. So it's always important to go and have a look at what it has done. And sometimes you come up with the CTP makes a few mistakes. So like here you can see it's got 0.01 and 1, so that's obviously not, that doesn't equal up to 100. So that's that what the experts are saying. So I normally, especially when they're long tables, I pick a couple at random and I'll say, well, okay, let's say if we've got increased healthcare, but tourism stays the same, and there's increased lost income, but but the household expense doesn't change, then that's going to be basically still a 95% chance of. No, that can't be right. No, it wasn't backwards. Yeah, no. Sorry.
Should be having change, yes.
Yeah, okay, okay, so let's go back. So notice I haven't closed anything yet, because if you close it, you lose it.
So we have to do it the other one.
Let's try. Okay, so same one here, increase, everything's, increased healthcare, same tourism, increased lost income, but no increased household control. So now you've got, it's actually 45% change, economic change versus 55%. There's another one, say, healthcare stays the same, but tourism decreases. There's no lost income, and no expense change. It's only healthcare. So you've got 73% chance of change
Because of the loss.
because
But it's
it's
not,
only
it's a lot of the only expense change, but you have 73%.
yeah. Is it? Oh, no. 73, 27.
Yeah, it's not. Let's look at the place where the lost income has changed. Yes,
Sorry, I lost income.
Healthcare
Well, you've got-
same lost-
Obviously, if healthcare, lost income changes.
Well, let's look one by one, because the top one, 1.0. You
Yeah.
have an increase in healthcare, increased tourism.
But
loss
that's
income.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's everything.
Which was 100%.
The next one is, the only changes that are the expense change, you still get a 90, which is good. Okay,
And then the next
third
one, you have no lost
no
income.
lost income. And then it's,
But it's still
okay.
high.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yes,
so that's fine. 95, right? Because lost income is very important.
But this is saying, this is saying there's no lost income.
Oh, no. Yeah. no
And
lost
it's
income.
95,
Ah.
which is, doesn't make,
Yeah. So that's.
But everything else is the same. It's
Yeah, so that's-
saying that it's, yeah, so you're basically saying that lost income is not,
It's not important.
no impact. So
Yeah.
in that case, what you're saying,
So then,
you've got lost
Numbers.
income. You're saying,
that
so it
should
should
be
be
a
saying,
lower
it should
number.
be
Should
lower,
be
it should be,
lower.
yeah, that's the thing, but maybe, but then when we did it the other way, it was coming out with weird results as well.
But the third one down, which is testing, go to the third one down, so we're
This one?
saying that the cost of your healthcare remains the same.
tourism.
Everything else is affected. That should be a lower figure if you're saying, if that means that the cost of your health is a big contributor to your economic change.
It should be lower.
But they said that, so lost income is the most important one, right? So
Yeah.
if lost income doesn't change, when you're saying 95.5, you're saying that
It's not important. That
it's
should be
not
low.
important because it only changed by 5.
Yeah. So lost income is the
Percent.
most important. Lost income should be your lowest number. No, because see here, what that's saying is that your healthcare has changed, your tourism has changed, and your expenses have been changed, but your income hasn't. Your household income hasn't, which means that if you're saying your lost income is the most important factor on economic change, then that figure should be much lower.
Let's just change that one. That's your worst one, right? Then you had household expense. You had it was everything stayed the same as in affecting economic change, but except for the household expense didn't change. But you still said that had a high impact, right? But not as high as
Lost income.
lost income. So say if you put just 15.85, right? Then you go to healthcare. Healthcare is also important.
But not as important as the other two.
Healthcare. So let's
Make
say
that 35, 65.
5, and then so this could be say I don't know 70/30, right?
Yep.
Let's see what we get.
So that makes more sense.
Okay, so we've got, so you just get a bit more that, the way that changes, a bit more variability in your probabilities.
You have to have more variability.
Yeah, so that if you get actual change, before it was just too close,
close.
so it couldn't work it out.
Yeah.
So you've got, let's say, when you've got the lost income, when you have lost income, it's 100%. And then again, if you've got lost income but no expenses, because the expense was quite high too, you've only got 15% and 85, right? But you had no lost income. There no lost income, no expense, which are two most ones you're down to, it's not going to be much change, 1 and 99. That's the fourth one down. So your two highest was lost income and household expense, right? So if that's not changing, if that's not increasing, staying the same, then your economic change is not increasing, because
There is no economic change, basically.
Not very much.
not very much. There's still something there, but not very much. So they're the more important lost income and expense change. And remember, these are just probabilities you've chosen, you're chosen, or basically this is what the experts are giving you. And okay, so but if you've got obviously the worst case scenario, if nothing changes, you're going to have no economic change. And if you've got, this is a higher one, if you've got increased healthcare, tourism stays the same, lost income and expense change, so you're going to have a 7% chance of being economic change. Yeah. So that's, you see, it takes a lot of thought and a lot of time. So this is where I do this first thing in the morning, because it's really quite hard, especially at the beginning. The experts really struggle to understand it, and this is even harder to understand because when I run other workshops, I'm just calculating the risk. This is a risk analysis, so you've got to look at the negative. So it's really hard for people to be thinking, you're thinking backwards.
I think it'll work. If you go back to the CTP table, when we started thinking about what's your worst case and what's your best case, or what's your best case, what's going to have the greatest impact on economic change, and what's going to have no impact on economic change, and then ranking each of these variables, saying what's going to have the most impact on economic change on their own,
Right.
and you give that the
If the numbering or give the value,
give the lowest value.
give the lowest value.
Is that right? Increase, yeah, because so therefore the lost income, we gave it the lowest value
Okay.
because we're saying that's what that's saying is that lost income has the greatest impact.
I was going to show you our one. The probabilities.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. the
So if
most
you've got no
important-
lost income, you're not going to get much change.
Yeah.
And so you give that the lowest value, which means it has the biggest actual impact.
Yeah. See, that logic needs time.
Yes.
To understand.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all right. Okay. So you can see it's fun, hey.
But I think if you start thinking of that sort of counterintuitive way, which says it's most important if it has the lowest number, because it means that when it doesn't change. So your next one was household expenses. That you thought household expenses had a very high impact, not as high as lost income. And so if your household expenses didn't change, then the overall impact on the overall economic change was less, so you gave it 15. So
So it's
lost income has the greatest impact, and so when lost income doesn't change, you have little effect. Your next most important one was household expense. So when household expense doesn't change, you have a slightly higher impact. Your third one was healthcare. Sorry, not healthcare.
Healthcare.
So when healthcare doesn't change, but everything else does, then you have your next, followed by finally by tourism, which is your least important.
Yeah, but then we put 35 for lost income.
No, you put 35 for healthcare staying the same and everything else going worse.
So
So for lost income, how will we put down?
That's 5.
That's
But-
the lowest.
Lost income.
That's right.
yeah.
Income doesn't change. So when income doesn't change,
Okay, when income doesn't change, then that, okay.
So I find the best way to read these and the way for experts to work out is causing more harm, right? And then the next one is your one where it causes the least harm. Okay. Now each one of these changes. So you've given yourself a score here, 100 to 0, that it's definitely going to cause change. Now each one of these changes, so it's exactly the same except for one variable. In this case, it's healthcare. So if healthcare, you've got 100 and 0, but now you have actually no impact on healthcare. How does that change it? So you've got the effect. And that's how, when I read it to experts, and they do it, so they say, well, the only thing that's changed now, exactly like that top one, except now your healthcare has changed. And then it's tourism's changed, I mean, the lost income, how does that particular variable affect that top line?
But,
And that's,
lost income and change in expenses are not mutually exclusive. Yeah, there are. It's not mutually exclusive because it's when I lost income, then my expenses will goes down.
well, this is where your
And then-
definitions have to be clear and they have to be.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
yeah, if both are together, then actually the effect is not as high as when they are mutually expensive,
Yeah.
mutually
So-
exclusive.
I suppose in this case, what you're saying here, because of the way you've done it here, you're also saying that you've got lost income and you've got your expense change. Between the two of them, there's actually, they're close together anyway, there's not that much difference between them.
Yeah.
So you're saying that they're having a fairly
There are
similar
intersections.
effect.
There are intersection of lost income and expense. I mean the effect. Because they are not mutually exclusive, the effect, there's a
Yeah.
intersection between them.
Well, are you saying, and this comes down to sort of, you're saying that if you lose income, then your household expense goes
Also
down.
goes down. So if both are there, the effect is not as high as if we are thinking of each and then being added.
What's the definition for household expense change?
Household expense increases due to more measures required for preventing and monitoring mosquitoes. So they're not supposed to be taken together. It's simply saying that in terms of economic change, if your household expense increases due to more measures required for preventing and monitoring mosquitoes.
But if I lost my income, then I would not spending that much to control mosquitoes. Well, it's then I mean this is the difficulties when we are
Yeah.
translating it into numbers because
Yeah.
things are not isolated. But anyway, it won't make any difference. Much difference.
I mean, it is possible to put if two states going together don't work at all, it is possible to put an impossible in there, right? So then it doesn't get calculated.
And it
Yeah.
has something to do with the allocation of number, assignment of number. I mean, the logic will influence how we allocate number in the
Yes, but yes, no, it does.
But this seems good.
Because you've got to remember as well, it is a generic model
Yeah.
of risk analysis, so you're trying to cover everything, but you possibly have situations where you've got people with businesses are losing money, and so if they're losing their money in their business, but that doesn't necessarily, they're still running their household the same.
But I hope you are still here when tomorrow there are the participants because we might have difficulties in explaining this.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just we should change it to expense change rather than household expense. Will that make it simpler if you just said expense change?
Yeah.
So as expenses increase due to more measures.
Expense increase.
Yeah. Let's do that. Oh, I'm changing the master session.
All right, so
Yeah.
I know that it does take a while to get your head around it,
What's
and
that?
this whole CTP calculation and giving values and all this, and you can see just with forward view how hard it was. Now when you've got
Try one more?
you want to try one
Yeah,
more?
yeah.
Sure.
But
Alright, here,
let's see, I'll change.
basic condition, don't need to change this. Not
Okay, choose. I have the standard public health.
So this is an example of mosquito management efficacy from our risk analysis. Even from monitoring was sufficient, it didn't change it, and then gradually they went, when household control remained the same, it dropped a bit, and so forth, down all the way down to the bottom there where nothing really changes. Then mosquito management. So that's the example of population examples for. But don't learn them off by heart. All right, so another example. All right, so let's do. We'll try and do easy, short ones. Shall we do social change then?
Yes. Let's
Kita
try
nggak
that.
punya crossword.
Okay, let's change this to this.
We have erased the cross-border yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Oh, okay, well, great.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
It was killed. We did.
Go on. So basically, then you're saying it's you only have two.
Yeah, simple.
Okay, nice and simple like that. Alright.
Yeah, let's try the simple one.
That's it. Come on,
Sometimes for these small ones, it's not even worth doing the CTP calculator. It's just do the whole thing.
Oh, because there's only two.
Yeah, so that's right. So it's basically just what you're getting anyway. So, but
Oh.
we're here now. So you've got this is for where the social change is going to increase. So you have adverse media happening and opinion conflict happening.
Okay. So the first one will be the 100.
Well, it doesn't have to be 100. It has to be whatever your worst case you believe it to be. So it could be anywhere between 0 and 100. But nothing. But if you choose 0, then of course everything else has to be 0.
Right,
So
right.
that's
So it can be like 95.
It can be,
95.
yeah. Or you might say, well, in the end, we don't collectively think it's all that important, so it could be 30 or something like that. So it's about
Okay.
what you think is going to have the greatest
Adverse media.
impact on social change. So overall, social change, adverse media and opinion conflicts, adverse media, you've got opinion conflicts. What's the worst that could happen?
Okay, I would say 80-20 then.
Okay, then you have when there's no change in all this, so there's no adverse media, there's no opinion conflict.
How lucky that
So will this increase social change? There's nothing happening.
if there's nothing happening, there will be 0-100.
Yep. Okay, the next one is that there's no adverse media, but there is
Opinion.
opinion. This is testing the importance of what? What's it testing the importance of?
It is-
Relative to the top one.
It is testing the importance of opinion.
No, it's testing the importance of media.
Oh, yeah?
Relative to the
Because
first
it's-
one.
yes. Oh, relative to the first one.
Yeah, because
Ah.
media's not changed.
Okay,
Media hasn't
okay.
changed. So you've got good
Okay.
media, but you've got
Bad opinion, or people
Yeah.
differs in their opinion.
yeah.
Good media, okay. Good media is very important. It's more important than opinion.
Yeah.
So that would be 20 or 30,
Yeah. So choose
30.
30. And this one is saying that you've got an effective media, but there's no social conflict. So this is testing the relative to the importance of social conflict. And you said that media was worse. So social conflict is presumably somewhere between 30 and 80.
40. Just say 40, 60.
Yeah. Alright, so that's, as you said, it's a very simple one, you don't even have to really use that, but that's, so, actually, it's really more.
So the more you have, the more it becomes complicated, yeah?
Yes, because
Yes.
it's got it's looking at every combination. So that's view this. So it's the same.
Okay.
You just did it.
Because it's only the four combinations when you've got two variables.
So social change when there's, okay. Yeah, it stays the same.
Alright, so I think, can we, I've got just one little presentation to
Okay.
give on expert elicitation and actually speaking, and then it's all ready for discussion on the workshop and looking at the network and things like that. So are you happy to, what's the time now, 12?
Yes.
Right, that's it. That's it. I like this.
Fast, interactive. But we need more exercise.
One more exercise.
Well, no, I was thinking you had
No,
time.
we don't have time. Justin said no more exercise.
Well, we can look
guys.
at it again this
We have-
afternoon if you
We
like.
could do it again, yes.
Yeah.
We can do it later.
Have a break and then I'll do it and I'll say, all right, now, you know, do it all.
Yes.
I just quickly do it and then my presentations are over
Right.
and then it's all about how to,
Okay.
how you're gonna do this, yes. Is that okay? I mean, I'm happy to do another one right now.
No, let's have your presentation finished and then we
Okay.
can do it. As long as we have one more
Oh,
exercise
whenever that will be fine. So you're unlocking that knowledge with people. And the main thing about elicitation, it's all about communication, making sure that avenue of communication is open. So it's all about being able to speak clearly and concisely and get your message across, but at the same time it's also about listening. It's not just listening to your participants, it's also other participants listening to each other. And so that's really important that you stress at the beginning that one person speaks at once, at one at a time, so you don't have this over talking and that conversations aren't happening in different parts of the room. It's all, this is where you set your ground rules at the beginning. Only one person talks and everyone has the courtesy to listen to each other. And this requires the support of a good facilitator, and that's the person in front of the room. So what is facilitation? It's basically it's a role is you're leading people into obtaining that knowledge that you want, but you want it, so you're encouraging these people to want to give you that knowledge, to participate and not just sit there. And also, we're developing a model, so you want them to own that model in the long run. So you want them to be keen and involved all the way through for a 2-day workshop, which is a hard task to keep them interested and actively involved. And it is a democracy. It involves all group involvement, so you to ensure the workshop runs smoothly. So what does the facilitator do? Which is mostly my role. I normally do is you're up in front and you're guiding your experts to give you that information. You know your different stages you have to go through in a workshop, and you have to get those experts to pass on their information. So you have to control them somehow. If you again with making sure that everyone's participating, that only one person's talking, that one personality is not dominating the room, and to ensure that everyone is working, you become like a team together.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Do you know the 20 people who are coming as part of this?
We've already mentioned this. That's going to be discussed after lunch, because they have a list. Yeah. And it's managing conflicts. If there's difference of opinions, which often will be the case with experts, and hopefully not, because we're all meant to be professional, but sometimes you could have a heated conflict. It's up to the person up here in front that has to manage that, and if they feel it's going in a way that should, that they step in and say. So often I'm in a case I'll have an expert in a room, and he's potentially a professor who's done a lot of research, 30 years of research, and he's telling his experience, which is all great you hear, but you haven't heard from this side of the room. So I'll come in and I'll say, that's great, and that's really important knowledge you've told us. How about we hear from
We wouldn't
what's
allow
the-
debates.
Sorry?
Would we allow debates?
You definitely, you want that interaction. You want everyone talking to each other. You just got to control it in the fact that if people are taking a defensive stand to say, no, my way is right, my idea is better than yours, or something, that's where you've got to step in and say, well, yeah, as I say, no answer's wrong, no answer's right. It's your view from your experience, and yeah.
But some people are more knowledgeable.
Some people, and exactly, and you definitely, that's when you do defer to them, but at the same time, you don't want them to be running the whole show.
Because sometimes what happens with experts is that they think they know everything, when in fact they don't.
So, the role of a facilitator is you have to tell your experts what they're there for. besides explaining that you're there to build a model, what are the endpoints, etc., you've got to set down that you're here to hear everyone, and you want everyone's views, and you're going to work towards a group consensus. An example I've got there is sometimes you have, I'm not sure what Indonesia's like, sometimes you have a hierarchical organisation where you may have a chairman of a group, and you'll find that you've also got some people here that are at a lower level, and they won't speak because their chairman's there. So you have to hopefully diffuse that situation and ensure that others. And that's where we have the breakout groups, where you actually separate them. If you've got a situation like that, it's a bit hard, but then when you break out, so to do calculations, etc., you split them up. So you've got the people from the same organisation that are having that trouble, you put them in different groups, so you're getting input from everyone. And you also you try that anyway. If you've got people from the same organisations, that you split them. So you're not all the buddy situation. You've got the co-workers together. You want to have for each of your little groups diversity in experience. Obviously, to run this solicitation, you have to have administration support, as in you're making a decision, you're building a model to make a decision. You want your decision makers, they're happy with this type of approach, that it's a democratic approach, that you're building a model based on a whole range of opinions, and it's not going to be in a top-down, this is what we're doing anyway. So that's what you're aiming for. And it's very important, obviously, for the person that you pick the right facilitator up the front that can control the group. There's a number of elicitation methods. I'm not going to really go into every method, but basically the main things is whether you do individual elicitation or you do a group workshop. And there's some pros and cons of both methods. Obviously, there's individual elicitation. We saw from our email responses. They capture those individual responses. You can pick the diversity in views. And when you're doing individual elicitation, sometimes I do a sitting one-on-one with an expert. You can ensure that the expert understands the question you're asking, and you're obviously ensuring that they're participating in giving their opinions. But the problem with the individual expert elicitation is it's extremely time-consuming. You can imagine if you're doing this one-on-one, it's going to take a long time. And they can maybe their views may actually be quite an outlier to a main view. And if you've only say interviewed one expert and they've got extreme view, that could really bias your results. So generally, if you're going to run an individual elicitation, you will pick a minimum 4 or 5 people, so you can capture if there's some extreme opinions out there. Group workshop, you have everyone's experience behind them that makes for very good discussions. It catches that diversity, and it allows you to reach a consensus through healthy discussions. The problem with the group workshop is obviously you're going for group consensus, you're not capturing individual views, and you have to worry about people, dominant personalities taking over. But that's the role of facilitator to stop that. We use a method where, as I mentioned a number of times, to get everyone to participate is we start off with a group environment overall, and then for every time we want actual input, we break them into groups of 3 or 4 people. And so if you've got 20 experts, I'd suggest when you've got you've got 20 experts coming. Does that include year 5? On top, yeah, okay. And you've got the 5 experts. I'd suggest breaking up in groups of 4, that each of you can sit in one of those groups, and then you can help them through what you're asking them about the process, yeah.
So Justin, I ask a question.
Yeah.
When you've done that for Vietnam, when you have few groups put together, all the expert inputs and everything, do you also need a team leader on all of those to combine?
So this is why I'm saying that because these experts have sat for the 2 days to learn, that's why it's good for that. So it's not really a team leader as such, it's more just to show direction. So there's no leadership, there's no leadership yet. It's more just to help, because people will, especially you saw just with that conditional probabilities, that people will flounder. They'll not be sure for a while, and they'll need help to walk through each one. And so it helps to have someone, we found it helps to have someone sitting in the group and just basically sounding out each case.
But by the end of the day, out of those teams, I guess we are those expert leaders
Yeah.
who lead the discussion on each subgroup will still involve at the end of the compilation of what we wrote. Or do we have one person in charge of this? The reason we ask the question is we will also ask these gentlemen and ladies to discuss internally how we would work out.
Yeah. Well, for the report at the end, it's really how you want to run it. It's because you can do it either way. You can have it. I mean, if you've got the 5 that are already involved right from the start, it's probably the way to go is to maintain that, and especially they'd be much more informed because they won't be doing every probability table because that will take too long. So they'll only be doing certain ones. So they'll be responsible for the ones that they've done with their groups. Yeah, but it depends who's writing the report up. Who's responsible for the report?
Because we have to be hands-on for the neutrality.
Yeah.
Bahwa ada di ibu, kami nyuwun tolong nanti minta tolong untuk work out how we are this team, small team, the 5-person team, the core team.
But then that's part of the draw up contract. That's one of the tasks, and when we get the experts who are only there for the workshop, we have to sometimes we have to consult experts later on, and if they have to add more to it, we need to probably send it as a name on paper, but they don't get a name on paper just for being in the workshop, so if they extra work, it generally it's up to
And the challenge that we are facing right now is getting optimism with risk assessment report before that.
For August.
At the latest is probably last week of July, because the original schedule on the first release in Jogja is end of July or first week of August.
Well, it all depends how well you capture the probabilities at the workshop. If you get that going and you've got multiple experts, it's not a big process because all you're doing is you're populating that model and you have this done and you do this matrix. It is possible to get it done before the first
Oh,
release.
excellent.
Yeah.
Because you'll end up, if you've got it populated, then you basically have then you've got it. So, and again, you've got what we use, what the Vietnamese use, and you as a collective can decide what's most important, you know, between 0 and 100, you know, negligible, very low, low, moderate, high, where that fits on that score. And that's ultimately as much a political thing, where you choose where is your cut-off line. At what point would you not go ahead? So what percentage likelihood of adverse outcomes would mean that you would put a halt on the process? And you need to be thinking about that, because in the end it says, well, if you would put up a halt on anything where you had a probability of a percentage of 20% or greater, that would be a stop.
The conventional is 30%.
Oh, there's no
I
convention.
mean the Brazilian and the Vietnamese and the Australian. You came up with 30%.
No, because risk assessment just tells you what the number is. And
The cut off to...
No. The risk assessment just gives you risks. It's the decision-making process which takes those figures and in its own mind has already got so it's the decision makers that will say, well, okay, we believe that, or it might be a recommendation from you in your conclusions that anything with a risk above 20% would be a reason for putting a halt on it. And I am only just saying 20% out of the air. 5% could be too great.
But who will decide that it is negligible, it's important?
It comes down to, in the end, in this context of Australia, it comes down to the Australian government decides.
Government.
Yeah, so the Australian government made a decision that it was comfortable that because the likelihood of more harm was negligible, and negligible on our score was, what was it, below?
I was 0.101.
Yeah, 0.01 or something was below 0.01, then they were comfortable with that. Now, if we'd said negligible was 10%, they might have questioned that and said, oh, 10%. So there's 10% likelihood of having an adverse outcome, that's probably pretty high. So it's about saying, well, where? So that's why it's really important to be thinking about the risk matrix and how you interpret that. But you once you've got that Bayes net fully populated, you've got your probabilities. You've got all that information. Now you have to convert that into the risk matrix.
So at the end of the day, in the case of Australia, the government received a recommendation from the expert team coming up with all these assessments.
Yeah.
The question is, did you also do the mitigation plan as well?
The what?
Mitigation plan, or how to manage this risk even though they are very negligent?
Well,
or just assessing the response?
again, it was because in Australia, when you release an organism into the environment, there's no mitigation. You've made a decision to release it because you believe that the likelihood of an adverse outcome is negligible. And therefore there's no mitigation. Once it's out there, it goes. So it's basically saying we believe it's safe to release.
So in other words, what I'm hearing from you, that overall is very negligent, the risk is very negligent, and the government decides. So,
Yeah, governments make the decision, not us.
right.
And that's really important thing, is that you don't make the decision. I suspect your government will make the decision. You do the risk assessment, you provide the evidence to government that then reviews it, and then they make the decision.
That's why even this program actually facilitated by the Minister of Technology research and technology on
Yeah.
behalf of the company.
Yes.
So, I've already alluded to this about personalities. Everyone comes from different backgrounds, education, life experiences, and cultural differences. And somehow you have to bring all that together to arrive at a unanimous solution. And I'm not saying you're always going to get these, but sometimes they do come up. Dominance, you can have very dominant type personalities there, and one thing I think is also important is that you have this seniority and respect where people with less seniority don't want to voice their opinions above someone else, so, and that's what you have to deal with, and as I said, that's where the group work is really important to break those people up. But you're here for a common goal. You're getting all that knowledge and basically building your wall up to answer your endpoint question. So we really do. The main thing is to get everyone's knowledge. And so this is a checklist for you to have an effective workshop. You have to have an effective facilitator there. Now I've already mentioned before that possibly it's either has to be one of the 5 experts or potentially even someone else from the project while the experts can be involved. I don't know, we discussed this after lunch, but it would be the best for this type of role. So you want someone that is happy up front, that can get everyone talking, but still be able to control the room, make sure that all the different stages of the meeting, that everyone has a chance to say and is able to manage different personalities. So it's got to be someone who's comfortable doing that. You have your workshop plan. You need to know where you're going, what stage you're going to do that, and again that flexible agenda. You have an agenda, but it's going to go out the window, so you've got to be adaptable. Because some things are going to take much longer than you think, whereas other things will be quite short. You should break out groups if possible and provide feedback throughout, so you know, just ensure you're on the right track and everyone's happy. Because the last thing we'll do is we want to spend 2 days going to something, get to an end result, and then someone pipes up and says, actually, I disagree with this step all the way up here, and you want to avoid that. And then also after the workshop, what I often do with my workshops is I'll present this and do the feedback all the way through the workshop, and then about a year later, I actually give it back to the experts and say, are you happy with the results? And so this is the end bit basically for a discussion after lunch is what's the workshop goal, who will be the facilitator, because you really only, you imagine you have 5 people up here, it's going to be very confusing. You really only want one person with a couple to help, so 2 assistant facilitators, and then you have your helpers. There's our role, to discuss what we are going to do the next 2 days, and then look through the workshop stages. You've got the pre-workshop you've already done, but you must address that at the workshop to make sure everyone's happy with that. And then you're going to build your network, and then feedback on the model, and then collect probabilities, populate the model, and the matrix. So that's all for discussion. How to do it. After lunch is lunch.
After lunch.
All right, and that's it on all the formal presentations. It's now all.
Thank you.
So it's a matrix, not a fault tree.
No,
That's
ignore the fault
Fault
tree.
tree. Don't
Yeah.
think about fault
Yeah.
trees.
So it's matrix.
The matrix at the end, remember
2
that
by 2
matrix?
matrix.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
Why don't
That was
we-
where you're looking at the consequence. given that a lot was from the Bayesian network, what's the consequence of it?
You're not using it.
But
You're
you
not
showed
using
the
a fault
output
tree.
is a fault tree.
We did fault trees to help us think about the logical connection between the hazards. But we don't need to do that because you're going to do the Bayes net, and which will create that logical relationship. And then you're going to use that information from the Bayes net